In the peaceful night of a small town, this girl and her best friend were going to a party. During the party, the girl's beautiful appearance attracted the attention of many boys. At this time, a boy approached and invited the girl to have a drink, but the girl refused because she did not drink beer. Seeing this, the boy immediately suggested that the two of them could drink soft drinks and talk. The innocent girl did not think much and agreed. As a result, the next morning, the girl returned home in a daze. When her parents asked her what happened, the girl told them that she was drugged last night. When she woke up, she found out that she had been raped. Her best friend said that it was the son of the police chief who did it. At this time, in a forest not far from the town, a soldier woke up next to a police dog. He did not remember who he was. Luckily, he still had his identification on him, so he knew his name was Brian. Suddenly, the dog ran straight towards the thick fog in front of him. Brian hurriedly chased after the dog, but the barking was quickly replaced by a miserable scream. The dog had died with a miserable way. Brian sensed something in the fog and was so scared that he ran into town. He went to the police station to warn about the mysterious fog. However, the police chief did not believe him and even locked Brian up in jail, thinking that he had a mental problem. At this time, Kevin's father and the girl also went to the police station to report the case. After that, the police went to the school and took the police chief's son away. Kevin's neighbor, Mrs. Raven, was gardening when she suddenly saw countless frogs jumping onto the shore. Animals also left the forest as if they were running away from something. Since the girl accused the police chief's son of rape, Kevin's family has been constantly disturbed because the son of the police chief is famous in town for being a nice person. So many people think that the girl is framing him. On the contrary, the police chief told his son Jay to do as the lawyer said, because the police chief believes that Jay committed a crime. This girl's name is Mia. She is a drug addict. That night, Mia sneaked into the old house to get the money she buried underground, but the new homeowner discovered it. So Mia was arrested and put in jail with Brian. Kevin's wife Eve didn't want her daughter to be hurt anymore, so she took her daughter Alex to her sister's house to live. Moreover, Eve didn't want to see Kevin at this time. The strange mist was about to enter the town. After the strange phenomena earlier, Raven went to the library to find out, but she only found a mysterious case. A series of homicide cases about humans and animals occurred in 1860. Kevin drove Alex's daughter's best friend to the police station to make a statement when he discovered a thick fog coming. It even went against the wind. At the same time, Eve was stopping by the shopping mall to buy some things. Alex was being angry with her mother, so she stayed in the car and called Kevin. As soon as the fog covered them, the phone lost signal. A curious policeman refused to go inside, but stood there taking pictures to send to his wife. Suddenly, a cockroach crawled up his neck. Then countless cockroaches from all over surrounded the policeman. Before Kevin could understand what was happening, the police chief hurriedly asked to get in the car and drive away. Kevin told the police chief to wait here, because Alex's best friend was still in the police station. In front of the library, it was now covered in fog. Raven and her husband were still feeling romantic. Suddenly, a man appeared and pointed a gun at Raven's husband. Then, without hesitation, he shot Raven's husband and left this world by himself. Everything happened so fast. Raven instinctively ran away in fear. Even though she had reached a safe place, she was still terrified. Kevin happened to hear the cries for help, so he went to see. At first, he didn't intend to release Brian and Mia because they were prisoners, but if the mist was really dangerous, having them along will also be of extra help. The police chief felt that there was something very scary in the mist, so he didn't wait any longer and hurriedly drove away. On this side, the mist covered the car, making Alex panic. As soon as she got out of the car, she was hit by a man. Alex walked forward for a while and saw that the man was already dead. The girl hurried into the shopping mall. Alex saw a friend and her child about to go out that she immediately advised them to stay, but the woman didn't like Alex and Eve, so she didn't listen. As a result, they hadn't been gone for a minute when a scream was heard. Eve was curious to see what was going on, only to see that the woman had lost half of her lower jaw and was dragged into the mist by something. At the police station, Kevin was about to go out with everyone when he was attacked. Luckily, Mia bravely shot and saved Kevin from that horrible man. Kevin was scared out of his wits. Everyone's phones lost signal. They could only wait for the police to come and rescue them. But Alex didn't want to stay there because Jay was also there. Kevin found out that the police chief had run away. He convinced Mia and Brian to go to the mall with him, and they agreed. The police chief was running on the road when he hit a moose. Luckily, not far away was the town church. Because Eve had witnessed the terrible incident earlier, the manager came to ask her. However, Eve didn't know exactly what had attacked that woman. Someone wanted to go out to find the son, but was stopped. They couldn't take the risk now. To keep things outside from getting in, the manager asked everyone to help him lock the entrances to the center. On this side, the pastor thought the police chief came to deal with what happened to Raven's husband, basement, but didn't know that the police chief had escaped the fog, so he came here. The police chief used the excuse of everyone's safety, so he advised them to stay in the church and wait. He also said he didn't know what was happening outside. Eve nervously approached the door. Luckily, nothing unexpected hit the glass again. On the way back to everyone, they discovered a body and quickly reported it to the manager and security guard. Someone suggested using the radio to contact the Department of Homeland Security, but it was in the security room in the management storage area where Eve found the body. It was unknown what had torn the body's arm off. Everyone didn't dare to take the risk. Alex suggested using a drone to scout the way before sending someone to get the radio. On this side, Kevin's group had just left the police station when the fog thickened. They quickly got into the police car and drove away. On the other side, Jay controlled the flycam to carefully observe the road to the security room. The security room was closed, so it was temporarily safe. Another room was open. There was a corpse on the ground with a line of words in blood, but no one understood what it meant. At this time, the flycam was stuck, but they had also grasped the situation inside. The manager suggested drawing lots to choose the person who go to get the radio. Unexpectedly, the unlucky person chosen was Eve. There was a young man who volunteered to go with Eve despite being prevented by his friends. Mia was driving carefully in the fog when someone wanted to steal their car. She was going into withdrawal, so she felt very uncomfortable. She immediately went crazy and stepped on the gas and drove straight ahead. Unfortunately, she collided with another car and flipped over. Luckily, everyone only suffered minor injuries. Suddenly, the glass door began to crack, then shatter. Mist quickly filled the car. 4 people hurriedly got out and ran towards the church bell. Mia was about to turn back to get her gun when she saw a person who had been dead for a long time. Although she lacked medicine, she was still sober enough to realize that this was an illusion. Kevin saw the police at the church. He immediately questioned the police chief about running away first. The police chief criticized Kevin for releasing the prisoner. He directly handcuffed Mia and explained that he was attacked, so he left first. The pastor heard this and asked the police chief why he said he didn't know what was going on outside. When the police chief saw that everything was exposed, he didn't say anything and just left. On this side, Eve and the young man had already arrived in front of the management room. Then, the two of them quickly ran into the security room and closed the door. They quickly found the radio. Although it was still working, no one responded. At this time, the young man suddenly made a strange call and carried a gun. Eve realized something was wrong and turned around to run away. The two struggled back and forth in the thick fog. The young man felt something behind him and turned around. Eve took the opportunity to shoot and kill the young man. After returning, she lied that the two lost each other, and when they met again, the young man was dead. Because the town was not too big, almost everyone knew each other. However, the manager had never seen the young man's team before. Mrs. Raven invited the people at the church to drink and told them about her happy life with her husband, and everyone sympathized with her. Eve hid the young man's gun on her person. Not knowing what she would face, having a gun for protection was still more reassuring. In the middle of the night, Jay went to the bathroom and discovered that 2 people in the young man's team were dead. On this side, Kevin had rested enough, so he wanted to continue on his way. He had noticed the car outside the church. Kevin believed Mia would know how to fix the wires, but the problem was that she was being tied up. Kevin had to convince the police chief to release her. In another development, the manager and security guard went to the restroom to check the 2 corpses and found out that they were soldiers. The manager asked to check the others to see if anyone else had a soldier's card. Then one of them worriedly left quietly. Sure enough, he was also a soldier. West said that he was just a private in the army, following orders from his superiors, but he didn't know what the mission was, nor did he know why the other 2 died. The military appearing in this small town was not a good thing. At the church, Mrs. Raven told about an event in 1860 that was somewhat similar to the current situation. Mikey found it similar to the legend of the Black Spring, when the town suffered a great disaster after a girl was murdered. Kevin honestly told his purpose and hoped that the police chief would release Mia, but was flatly refused. Kevin did not help Mia get released, and instead caused her and Brian to be taken to the basement. In a space where there were only 2 people, Mia and Brian began to talk about themselves. Brian had lost his memory, so he knew nothing but his name. Mia wished she had lost her memory too. At this time, Kevin let Alex's best friend, Adrian, helped him to guard, while he went to the basement to ask Mia and Brian to hide together. Outside, Adrian was attacked by the police chief for framing Jay. Kevin returned just in time, and the police chief scolded Kevin. He also said that Eve was a woman who liked to cheat, so Kevin was also locked up by the police chief. On this side, in order not to waste time, Rick and Tech took out a game console and used their imagination to play games in front of the inactive screen, but that did not satisfy them. After a while of chatting, the 2 decided decided to do something interesting. They secretly took the two corpses out to test. They wanted to know what was going on outside. Eve didn't want her daughter to be with Jay, so the two separated from the crowd and set up camp elsewhere. Jay quietly followed Alex when she was alone. He wanted to prove his innocence. Jay liked Alex, but he never intended to hurt her. At the church, Raven lost her husband and didn't want to live anymore. She wanted to go back to her house. Mikey tried to stop her but couldn't. The mist suddenly thickened. A butterfly flew into Mikey's ear. He screamed in pain, feeling something running wild inside his body. His back started to crack, then two wings grew. Finally, countless butterflies flew out of Mikey's mouth. The police chief quickly pulled Raven inside. The scene just now was engraved in Raven's mind and changed her thinking. She didn't want to die anymore and was happy to see God. The pastor quickly said that it wasn't God, but Raven just gently replied that she wasn't talking about the pastor's God. On this side, Rick and Tech waited for a long time, but nothing happened. They were also discovered by West. What they did was insulting the American soldiers. The manager was sorry that he couldn't risk bringing the body back, but he also reprimanded Rick and Tech. The manager decided to set some rules. If there was another argument, the place would be in chaos. They needed to maintain order until rescue arrived. The manager let everyone come up with the rules, and then they would vote. Some wanted to divide the food equally, some wanted not to take things from the stalls without permission, and some wanted to expel those who caused harm from the center. Eve didn't care much because she would separate from this large group. Some people disagreed with that rules. They also packed their things and followed Eve. Jay was very upset when Eve did that because she thought Jay had raped Alex. Eve immediately pulled out a gun and threatened them. The manager didn't stop them anymore, just said that if anything happened, don't ask for help. At the church, Adrian pretended to need to make amends and stole the pastor's keys. The four people secretly ran away, but were discovered by the police chief. He couldn't stop them and even lost his gun. Eve's group set up camp in the storage area. Alex thought of using balloons to send a message to the outside because she hoped to see Kevin again. At this time, on the way to the car, Kevin stumbled over a body. It was a boy riding a bike. When they got on the car, Mia connected the wires, but nothing happened. Normally, even if the battery died, they could still hear the spark plugs. But what happened to this car? They had to find another car. Kevin remembered that there was a gas station around the corner. They should have what they needed there. Kevin thought about it. When they went out, the fog would thicken and almost disappear when they hid somewhere. Adrian confirmed that when Mikey grew wings, the fog was extremely thick. They agreed to wait until the bones were thin and then run really fast. In the center side, in order to keep everyone from getting bored, the manager brought down toys for everyone to entertain themselves. Back at the church, after Mikey's death, Mrs. Raven had become very strange. She kept crawling on the ground to find her God, ignoring the pastor's call to pray together. On this side, Kevin's group guessed wrong because there were no cars at the gas station. This place was also devastated. Nothing useful was left. Just then, a car drove up. That person recognized Kevin. He was the parent of the student Eve taught. Light had been wandering around town for the past few days looking for his son. Looking at the picture of the child, Kevin realized that it was the child he had tripped over when he ran out of the church. Receiving a look from Kevin, everyone replied that they had not seen it. Mia thought that they should tell Light the truth, but Kevin wanted to convince Light to give them a ride to the mall. On the other hand, during mealtime, Alex saw a little girl who was afraid of the dark, so she took the little girl to the bookstore to read stories. Mrs. Raven believed in the legend of the Black Spring. She wanted to find more information about it, but the pastor wanted her to find the answer in the Bible. The pastor wanted Raven to believe in God, and God would answer all her questions. But Raven seemed indifferent. At this time, she had found what she needed, a spider. Raven carefully put the spider in a glass jar. She looked like she had lost her mind, making everyone extremely confused. On this side, Kevin tried to talk to Light and learned that all the cars suddenly died at the same time. Light had bought a wrecked car according to his son's wishes. It was so old that didn't even have a circuit board, so it was still running in this difficult time. When Kevin wanted to hitch a ride, Light refused because he had to prioritize finding his child first. In the bookstore, there was a door to the center, which was also where Tech and Rick pushed the two corpses out as bait. This time, they decided to bring the two corpses back. The first corpse was pulled back very smoothly, but the second corpse's rope got stuck. Tech risked following the rope to the corpse. His figure had just disappeared not long ago when the rope broke. Rick called out for a long time without getting any response, so he closed the door. Tech suddenly jumped in, causing the glass door to break. The mist followed and poured into the bookstore, causing Alex and the little girl who was reading to get separated. Rick hurriedly ran to the center to call for help, but they witnessed an extremely horrible scene. A giant black shadow sucked all the life out of the lost girl and then merged into the mist. After that, it came to Alex. A moment later, Alex came out intact. She explained that she had resisted fiercely. On this side, the pastor looked at Raven taking care of the spider and felt very uncomfortable. Moreover, she had called it a god. The pastor believed that Raven would be judged, but the police chief was outside. He understood Raven's feelings and did not agree with the pastor. On this side, Light was about to continue on his way when Kevin stopped him. Mia did not want to hide it anymore. They had told the truth that Light's son was dead. Light did not believe it and wanted to shoot. Brian suddenly rushed forward to grab the gun. Kevin hesitated to shoot, and then Light's gun accidentally went off, injuring Brian. Light really did not want to hurt anyone. On the shopping mall side, because of Rick's reckless actions, everyone decided to vote to expel him from this place. Only Jay disagreed, but it did not change anything. Rick was given some food and a baseball bat for protection. There was no place to hide to see how long he could last. A church member named Link could not stand Raven's crazy actions. Link thought she was worshipping a false god in the church. Link convinced the pastor to stop Raven before anything happened. The pastor couldn't prevent Raven, so he grabbed the jar and stomped the spider to death. Then he explained to the others that he only wanted the best for a lost soul. At this time, Raven looked relieved, as if she had realized the truth. She put the jar on the table. Inside were countless baby spiders. On this side, everyone was expressing their condolences to the little girl who went with Alex to the reading room. Unable to bear it anymore, Alex confessed. She did not resist and just waited for death, but the shadow only glanced at her and left. Hearing this, the girl's mother, Sally, quietly returned to the group because the mother was unable to accept that both of them be in danger and only her daughter died. At this time, Light gave the car to Kevin's group and he continued to walk to find his son. Kevin's group needed to treat Brian first, so they went to the hospital. Luckily, the place was still operating. However, the doctor could not operate and could only stop Brian's bleeding. Because he had lost a lot of blood, he could not go anywhere at the moment. The situation at the hospital was also not good. Food and medicine were running out. The emergency generator could only last for another day or two. By chance, Kevin met his older brother in the hospital. The older brother's wound needed urgent surgery, but because it could not be done at this time, he could only wait for infection and death. Brian had woken up. Seeing that him and Mia wanted to talk privately, Adrian politely went out. By chance, Adrian met Taylor, and at school Taylor hated Adrian very much. The older brother begged Kevin to kill him rather than let the pain torment him. Although the two had a conflict before, but when faced with life and death, Kevin still ignored it and found a way to save his older brother. Kevin went to find the doctor. The doctor said that he needed a sterile environment and medicine in the East Room if he wanted to operate, but that place was full of fog. It was extremely dangerous to carry a patient 100 meters in the fog. Kevin wanted to try his luck. He would do it, and the doctor would guide him through the walkie-talkie. Mia bought a gift for Brian and accidentally discovered a man also named Brian. Mia pretended to ask him and found out that this man had been attacked by a man named Jonah in the army. Hearing the description, it was 100% certain that the person named Jonah was the Brian that Mia knew. Mia thought Brian had lied to her, so she was very angry. Kevin had to take his older brother to surgery, so he asked Adrian to keep the car keys for him. Because of that, Mia easily stole them. Seeing that she had not returned, Brian worriedly went to look for her and was shown to the real Brian's room by the nurse. At the same time, Kevin was running with all his might to take his older brother to the operating room. From the beginning, his older brother had undergone a transformation without Kevin knowing. Suddenly, his older brother said that he and all the men in town loved Eve because she was strange, wild, and special. Then Kevin came and took their lover. Kevin was silent after hearing that, but he still followed the doctor's instructions, step by step cutting the wound, taking out the steel bar, and clamping the wound. On the way back, the older brother kept vomiting blood. Kevin unfortunately slipped and fell, causing his older brother to fall as well. Kevin was about to help his older brother up when suddenly some leeches fell from the ceiling. They covered the ceiling and kept falling to the ground. They crawled all over his older brother's body. Some even crawled into his wounds. His older brother knew that there was no way to save him, so he begged Kevin to kill him. So Kevin had no choice but to heartbrokenly shoot and kill his older brother. On this side, Brian didn't know who was lying on the bed, but this person knew Brian very well. The two of them got into a fight, and as a result, the other person was killed by Brian. Kevin returned. The doctor asked about his older brother, but Kevin only said that he didn't make it. At this time, Adrian paid attention to the conversation between the doctor and the nurse. The nurse said that a few people had disappeared for unknown reasons. Kevin didn't want to stay here anymore. He still thought that Mia was here, so they didn't need to worry about Brian. At the church, the pastor was trying to persuade the police chief to his side when Link came to call the pastor. Raven was telling the others about the Black Spring, and they seemed to be about to believe her. The pastor played a tune to interrupt. Everyone lost interest and scattered. Kevin found out that the car was gone and went to find Brian, but Brian didn't know anything. Kevin had to let Adrian hear and go find another car. Alex and Eve went to pick out a new coat. Sally felt angry when she saw the mother and daughter laughing and joking. The police chief went to talk to Raven, and she told him a story. A brown bear gave birth to 3 cubs. The rangers had been watching them to make sure the cubs were safe from other predators, but they were shocked to see that the mother bear had killed 2 of her cubs. They took the remaining cub home to care for it, but found out that it had a fever and was infected. It was then that they learned that the mother bear killed the other 2 because they were sick and had to be killed to prevent the disease from spreading. Raven thought the same thing about the fog. Maybe humans were its purpose. Once it did what it wanted, everything would return to normal. Eve stayed behind to find some necessary things and let Alex go back to his camp first. Although she told Alex to go straight there, Alex still stopped by the climbing equipment stall. Because she thought the fog would ignore her, she could risk going out to find Kevin. While looking for things, the door was suddenly locked from the outside. Someone had locked Alex and poured gasoline, setting the room on fire. Kevin heard a strange sound while looking for his car. He followed it to a room. The doctor was tying a nurse to the bed and was about to do something. When Kevin tried to stop the doctor, he was drugged and passed out. The generator was running out of fuel, causing the electricity in the hospital to flicker continuously. Adrian was a bit worried when Kevin still hadn't returned, so Brian and Adrian went to look for him. Kevin woke up and found himself tied to the bed. It turned out that everyone was missing because the doctor was experimenting with the mist. The previous people couldn't last more than 30 seconds. After injecting a substance that slowed down a metabolism and hormones into Kevin's body, the doctor let the mist fill Kevin's body and stood inside to observe. Link didn't accept that Raven was lost and that it was causing others to gradually lose faith in God. He also thought that what he did was good and that God would forgive him. So when the pastor didn't want to take action, Link volunteered to do something. Mia returned to her old house and rummaged around. She was looking for the pile of money she buried in the warehouse. The new owner had found it and hidden it. She guessed that it was in the bedroom. Even though the place was full of mist, Mia still wanted to take a risk. While Alex was in despair, Jay appeared out of nowhere. He used a wet towel to rush in and get a fire extinguisher. The fire was quickly put out. Alex suspected that Jay lit the fire himself and ran in to save her. These words made Jay very angry. He explained that he followed Alex to find a chance to ask to go to their camp because he did not accept the barbaric actions of the people outside. That was also why Jay discovered that Alex was in trouble. At this time, Mia quickly found her wallet, but she had a hallucination of the scary room in her memory, her mother's room. Mia wanted to face her fear, so she entered the room again. Mia's mother had the responsibility to raise her, but her childhood did the opposite. In the hallucination, her mother said that she really wanted to do it, but her illness did not allow it. So her mother understood when Mia left her in the hospital. This time, let her help Mia. After saying that, Mia's mother strangled Mia, but Mia knew this was a hallucination. Moreover, there was still someone waiting for her to return. So, Mia killed her mother without hesitation. Then she took the bag of money to the car and left. At this time, Link took Raven to see the pastor. When she discovered something strange, that Link forced her into the attic. Link wanted Raven to regret and respect God. He would punch Raven until she gave up. Who would have thought that Raven would break the window and run out to lock the door, leaving Link to be tormented by the fog? Raven came with a bruised face to tell everyone about Link's harm. The pastor even pretended to come over with an expression that it had nothing to do with him. On this side, a minute and a half had passed, and Kevin was still unharmed, which surprised the doctor. He saw everything around him as if it was melting. He saw the owl in the story he wrote, and he also saw himself. Luckily, Brian and Adrian found Kevin in time. They immediately knocked the doctor down and brought Kevin inside. On this side, when Eve saw Jay, she went straight to punch him without knowing why. Eve heard that her daughter was locked up and assumed that Jay did it. Jay was so frustrated that he didn't want to explain anymore, but he still ignored Eve's gun to his head and wanted to go to their camp to stay. There were many flyers outside the shopping mall. They said that the state guard were coming. Everyone was shocked and extremely excited. Only the manager knew that this was a hope that Eve had deliberately created to stabilize everyone. Kevin was helped out just as Mia returned. When they were about to get to the car, the generator ran out of fuel. Without electricity, the doors opened automatically, and everyone panicked and ran everywhere. There was no time to get to the car. Mia took the lead and ran towards the mental ward, the only place that remained closed when the power went out. However, the person inside had locked the door. The person on the other side of the door wouldn't let them in. Only when Mia said that her mother was an acquaintance here could they go in. The psychiatric ward seemed to be left with only this male nurse. He said that they could choose any room to rest. He also did not forget to express his condolences to Mia. He said that her mother was not a bad person. The news of Rick being fired made Eve's camp uneasy. If the people outside went crazy, they could be in danger. So Eve decided to monitor the activities on the shopping mall side. The manager was secretly eating alone when West came to call him away. The security guard ate more than his portion because he was too hungry. The security guard tried to justify his mistake. Eve took advantage of the chaos to set up a wiretap. When Sally discovered her, Eve made an excuse to find something to entertain herself and left smoothly. On this side, the police chief noticed the pastor's nervous behavior. He hated the most despicable men who asked others to beat up women. The pastor refused to confess and was beaten by the police chief. No one helped him. Raven just hummed her favorite song without saying anything. In another development, Mia enters the room to directly expose that Brian's real name is Jonah, the person who attacked the real Brian in the army. That's why Mia left, because she thinks he really lost his memory or he's a psychopath. And she's very sensitive to people like that, like her mother. Jonah is also helpless because he doesn't remember anything. After having hallucinations about her mother, Mia decides to change. To do that, she needs Jonah's help. Mia will take drugs to block her addiction for 5 to 6 hours. After that period, her body will run out of drugs. Meanwhile, Jonah has to tie her up and not let her go for any reason. Alex no longer has a room because of Jay, which makes Eve very unhappy. Alex even opposed Eve to protect Jay. In a room, Adrian is talking to Taylor. Taylor spoke his mind about Adrian. Finally, he apologized. Taylor apologized for hurting Adrian. After that, the two hugged each other and slept, and their conversation was overheard by the male nurse. On this side, the pastor came to see Raven while she was reading the Bible. Raven said that there were many mistakes in it. Why did he still believe it? The pastor did not answer that question because the purpose of his coming was to do a life and death test with Raven. The two would enter the mist together. The pastor believed that God would protect him or nature would protect Raven as she believed. The results would tell everyone who they would follow. The next day, Taylor woke up and could not find Adrian anywhere. He called Kevin to wake up and go looking for Adrian, but the male nurse came and said that Adrian was not a good person. The male nurse said that Adrian was a devil who needed to be punished. Kevin and Taylor searched everywhere and found bloodstains under a cabinet. Opening it, he was horrified to find several dead doctors inside. It turned out that the male nurse was a mental patient. After saying that, he ran back to his room and locked the door. Sure enough, Adrian was in there. In a place far away from that room, Mia was begging Jonah to let her go. She couldn't take it anymore, but Jonah knew he couldn't do it. Suddenly, looking at Mia in pain, Jonah had an image of himself being the same way. He was being experimented on by someone. On this side, Eve's wiretap had taken effect. There was only 2 days of food left. Sally thought that Alex and Eve were a lying mother and daughter. At such a crucial moment, if they only thought about toys, they must have stockpiled a lot of food. But the manager firmly refused. The manager thought that Sally couldn't blame others for losing her daughter and then make trouble like that. On this side, the pastor finished praying and walked out of the church with Raven, naked. The two of them blended into the mist. Raven stood there with her eyes closed, and the pastor saw 4 knights riding towards him. He was still praying to God to drive away Satan when he was dragged away by the 4 knights and then disappeared into the thick mist. Only then did Raven open her eyes and leisurely return. On this side, Kevin threatened and coaxed but still couldn't make the psychopath open the door. He kept saying that Adrian was a devil, extremely evil, and that he couldn't be allowed to continue to exist. Kevin said that he was the devil. Thinking of the bastard who raped Alex, Kevin said cruel words and what he would do to that bastard. He successfully convinced the psychopath to replace Adrian with Kevin. After that, there was a fierce battle between the two. In the end, Kevin won, but the psychopath smiled with satisfaction. At the same time, Jonah remembered the time when he was in pain. That time, the doctor at that time helped him relieve the pain with random words, and he helped Mia overcome the pain with that method. Mia finally overcame the pain thanks to Jonah's perseverance. On this side, Raven returned and said that nature had taken the pastor away and spared her because she knew she had no ill intentions. Raven believed that she was the messenger of nature. At the same time, on Kevin's side, after witnessing a series of actions just now, Taylor suddenly became afraid. So when Kevin's group left, he chose to stay. Sally still didn't want to let Eve and Alex go. She began to manipulate everyone's psychology, that Alex had entered the mist without dying. There must be a reason, and Alex indirectly caused everyone to be imprisoned here. On the way to the mall, Kevin's group passed by Adrian's house. Adrian asked to go home to see his parents and, by the way, get some gas. Adrian went inside alone. Kevin stayed behind to guard the car. Jonah and Mia went into the garage to get gas. Everyone at the church wanted to know what was going on. Raven said that something similar happened in 1860 when a girl was murdered. Mikey died for the sins that got him into prison. Link died for wanting to hurt Raven. The pastor was taken away for giving Link instructions. Raven told everyone to look at themselves before asking because she didn't know what the nature wanted. The police chief confessed to Raven that his son had raped a girl. The police chief felt like a bad father, not knowing how to raise his son, letting his son become such a bastard. Although many people believed that Jay was innocent, the police chief believed that his son had really done it. Adrian went inside to find his father eating and his mother had dead. On the third day, when the fog came, she was too scared. When Dad woke up, he saw her standing on the porch and a flock of birds attacked her. Outside, Kevin saw someone's beacon and tried to get closer to investigate. Here, Raven mourned the pain that nature had suffered from what humans had done. The Black Spring had come to take the bad guys with it, so Raven convinced the police chief to hand his son over to nature and restore order. Jay and Alex's relationship was getting better. They went roller skating together in the mall. The sound of their play was detected by Selly. In the garage, Mia and Jonah finally had their own space, and they made love before continuing to fight the disaster. The manager was discussing the plan to go out to find food. Selly came to talk about Alex again. She couldn't accept Alex's relationship with Jay. Her words made everyone waver. The manager kept denying her thoughts to keep the place in order. But at the same time, it made some people start to rebel against the manager. Eve was looking for her daughter. Alex was only having fun with Jay, not caring that her mother was looking for her. Eve's friend wanted to separate the two of them, so she told Jay to go down to the warehouse to get water. Unexpectedly, this was Eve's trap, and she locked Jay in that room. Raven told everyone that they had to go to the mall. The police chief confessed that his son raped a girl. Raven believed that offering the police chief's son would clear the fog. Everyone would also return to normal life. When something ends, a new beginning opens, and Jay's end will be the beginning of the whole town. The police chief had found his way to the mall. On this side, the one who had flashed the light to Kevin was Rick. He was lucky to be alive outside. Rick said he knew Alex, so Kevin let him in the car. Kevin asked about his daughter. Rick said Alex was fine, but he didn't know if Alex was hurt or not, because the crowd there was playing a game of setting order. Rick said he was alive because he was hiding from house to house. West went to find the manager to remind him about Eve and Alex. People were starting to believe that Alex was part of the mist, which is why she wasn't dead. They thought Alex had a connection to it. There was only one day of food left, and anything could set people off. On this side, Adrian didn't want to stay with his father any longer. He took his gun and some necessities and went back to the car. Suddenly, Dad said that Mom was more afraid of Adrian than she loved him, not because of his homosexuality, but because Adrian was really a bastard. He even dared to do that to his only best friend, Alex. After hearing that, Adrian directly fired at Dad. It turned out that the one who really raped Alex was Adrian, not Jay. He wanted Alex to be his own and would never let her and Jay be happy. Adrian muttered, "Dad loves me, Alex loves me," beside Dad's cold body. Jonah and Mia had returned to the car, but Adrian had not come out yet. Kevin honked the horn to remind Adrian and went into the house to look for him. Adrian hurriedly faked his injuries. When Kevin arrived, Adrian immediately said that his father wanted him dead. Kevin, of course, believed it. He also comforted Adrian that Adrian was part of his family. While looking for bandages and antiseptic, Kevin discovered a bottle of anesthetic similar to the substance found on Alex. Adrian confessed that he loved Alex. Kevin was shocked. He even shamelessly mentioned the sentence that he was part of Kevin's family. Adrian ran away and picked up the gun. When he was about to shoot, Kevin suddenly attacked, but Adrian knocked him unconscious. He then threw open the door and ran away. The mist followed that and filled the house. When they got in the car, Adrian lied that Kevin was killed by his father. Mia didn't have any purpose, so she wanted to leave, but was stopped by Adrian. He wanted to keep his promise to protect Alex, so they continued to the shopping mall. On this side, the manager came to talk to Selly. Surprisingly, she confessed that she hated Alex because still being alive, so she attacked Alex. When the manager wanted Selly to say those words in front of everyone, she immediately threatened him with the matter of the manager hiding food. No matter how he explained, she refused. Therefore, the manager directly beat Selly to death. The people at the church chose to stay and wait. Only 2 people followed Raven and the police chief. Raven had just kissed them goodbye when she closed the door and set fire to the church. They calmly left with the scream of the people who stayed. On this side, the manager pretended to call for help. He said he saw Alex running away from the scene. Everyone looked at each other suspiciously, but it seemed like everyone had an answer. Kevin woke up in a daze. As soon as he went out, he met Rick. He took Kevin to another house for temporary shelter. Mia and Jonah thought Kevin was dead, so they went to the mall with Adrian. Rick didn't trust him much, so he stayed and just happened to meet Kevin. But the head injury made Kevin lose consciousness before he could stay awake for long and fainted again. At this time, the police chief led the way into a tunnel under the church. This passageway led straight to the mall. He knew this path after catching a robber. Eve knew that everyone was blaming Alex Alex for Sally's death. Eve told everyone to pack up while she went to find her daughter. Kevin also woke up. They were 3 kilometers away from the shopping center. To get there, the two of them would pass through 4 houses and find a place to hide, wait for the fog to clear, and then continue on their way. On this side, Mia's group had arrived. After entering, Adrian went alone to find Alex. Mia and Jonah looked for a temporary place to stay. Kevin and Rick started moving. The first house they came to was littered with corpses of soldiers from the army. At this time, a young man from the upper floor came down and threatened the two with a gun. Kevin convinced him to put the gun down. At this time, the young man said that he had seen what the army did. While Rick was asking questions, Kevin took the opportunity to pick up the gun on the floor. Kevin was afraid that the young man would report to the army, so he wanted to kill him. But before he could do anything, the young man was knocked down by Rick. Rick found the car keys, so he went out first. Kevin didn't find anything useful. He intended to say a few words to the young man and then leave. Unexpectedly, the young man had a grenade in his hand. The explosion broke the glass. Fog filled in. Kevin began to hallucinate. Many scenes from the past appeared in his mind. Finally, Kevin saw the demon in him. After a fierce fight, he finally defeated it and left. On this side, Adrian recited the words he would say to Alex, then wiped his tears and continued to look for her. Alex didn't know anything at this time, still looking for Jay when Eve found her. They hadn't gone long when they met Adrian. Alex was happy to see her best friend, then she heard that her father had died. Alex and Eve were extremely devastated, but Alex's safety was still the top priority. They were forced to continue running away. In the tunnel, while climbing the ladder, the husband who followed Raven was scared and fell down, breaking his bones. The wife wanted to go down to save her husband, but Raven calmly wanted to leave her husband behind. The wife regretted listening to Raven. When the wife was about to go down to save her husband, the police chief stabbed her. The married couple painfully called for help, but the door was still closed. The screams gradually faded into the squealing of rats in the tunnel. On this side, Mia lay and confided in Jonah. Before the fog came, she was the girlfriend of a drug dealer, a bad guy. Mia wanted to live a peaceful life with Jonah after this was over. Jonah happily agreed and imagined the peaceful scene of the two of them in the future. Mia would have her own home, no need to wander around anymore. After saying that, Jonah left Mia and went to find food alone. Accidentally, he was discovered by West and was unexpectedly knocked unconscious by West. At this time, Alex, Eve, and Adrian were about to go to Mia and Jonah, but were discovered by the manager and other people. During the chase, Eve shot and injured the security guard and dropped her gun. However, the 3 of them ran into a dead end. Eve was beaten as a warning. At this time, they still thought that Jay was dead and the murderer was Alex. Eve, in order to clear her daughter's name, had to tell where Jay was being held. The police chief and Raven finally arrived at the mall. They leisurely held hands and went to look for Jay. At the same time, Kevin went in alone to find his wife and daughter, while Rick stayed in the car to keep watch. On this side, West said that before the fog came, they had been looking for Jonah for a long time. They disguised themselves as civilians and searched everywhere, but Jonah appeared at this time. But Jonah didn't remember anything. Suddenly, West stood up and greeted Jonah like a subordinate. On this side, Adrian saw Alex hugging Jay, and he immediately rushed to beat Jay. He lied that the DNA results showed that the semen in Alex's body was Jay's. Just like that, he beat Jay without anyone stopping him. While everyone was worried because there was only one last meal left, the dirty police chief came. He didn't save everyone, but wanted to see his son. Kevin avoided the crowd and went to a deserted place where he met Mia. Mia was very happy to know that Kevin was alive. After talking to each other for a while, they split into 2 directions. Kevin looked for his wife and children. Mia looked for Jonah, then gathered and left. Jonah was West's superior, but West only unlocked his handcuffs and didn't reveal any more information to Jonah. The police chief went to the cell to see Jay, then took him to Raven. She kept feeling sorry for Jay, then comforted him that everything would pass quickly. Jay didn't understand anything, only cared about the danger that Alex and Eve were about to face. The police chief suddenly looked at Jay and praised him. He wanted Jay to believe in him and kept apologizing. After that, the police chief cruelly pushed Jay out. Jay really didn't understand why his father treated him like that. He ran away in the thick fog. The fog hadn't cleared yet. Raven quickly reassured the police chief that Jay wasn't dead yet, so the natural disaster hadn't passed. Just wait a little longer. She kept comforting the police chief so that he wouldn't feel guilty. Eve's friend couldn't stand the fact that the manager and other people were framing Alex, that stood up to protest, then was immediately shot dead by the security guard. On this side, Kevin finally found Adrian in the supermarket. He used Eve and Alex to threaten Kevin into letting him go. Mia also found Jonah, but West told him not to tell anyone, nor to bring anyone with him, so Jonah didn't explain anything and left Mia behind. No matter how Mia pleaded, Jonah still left. On this side, Eve and Alex were chased out of the mall. At this time, the police chief and Raven arrived. Eve was overjoyed when she saw this and immediately told the truth. Alex was the police chief's son, not Kevin's. Eve was pregnant before meeting her current husband, which is why Eve always wanted to prevent Alex from getting close to Jay. Even so, the police chief did nothing. After hearing that, everyone scolded Eve for daring to lie to save her daughter. They thought Eve was the kind of woman who cheated, and her daughter slept with her brother. What a scary family. On this side, Kevin didn't believe Adrian anymore. He would beat Adrian until he told the truth. It was too much to bear, so Adrian finally told the truth. At this moment, Mia came to call Kevin away. Adrian took the opportunity to light a fire and run away. Outside, when Eve and Alex were being pushed to the door, Kevin ran in. Seeing Kevin still alive, the mother and daughter were extremely shocked. Kevin begged everyone to let his family stay, but the crowd avoided Kevin's pleading eyes. The whole family had no choice but to leave. As soon as they got out, Kevin took the lead and ran towards Rick's car. Everyone was so scared that they didn't notice that Alex had fallen behind and was caught by the mist. She could only helplessly watch it suck every bit of life out of her body. Fortunately, Jay suddenly appeared to save Alex at the moment of danger. When Alex's parents came to take her away, it was Jay's turn to be caught by the mist. Soon, he had no sign of life. At this time, Kevin also told Eve and Alex the truth that Adrian was the real culprit. Until now, the mist has not cleared. Raven is still stubborn that when Kevin's family dies, the mist will clear. After that, she began to spread her story of the Black Spring to everyone. She confidently said that she was the messenger of nature. Kevin's car passed the main gate of the shopping mall. Suddenly, he thought of something. Kevin told everyone to buckle up. Then, he reversed the car and crashed straight into the glass door. Everyone inside panicked and ran away. Kevin tried to run away, but the car got stuck. The police chief came to help them take down the door frame. Alex opened the door and begged the police chief to come with them. The fog filled the center. Nothing could be seen anymore. The screams inside gradually disappeared. Raven saw her dead husband and child. She fed the child milk, humming a song, until the child sucked all of Raven's life, causing her to die. At this time, Kevin was wondering where to go when he saw the train lights. He quickly ran to the train station and turned off the lights, silently observing the situation. The train seemed to have just passed through a zombie zone. At this time, a group of prisoners were pushed down. On the train were the army. Kevin realized that those people were food for the fog. That was the entire content of the movie. Thank you everyone for watching. Hello and see you in the next videos. Bye.